What's up, everyone? I'm GKB, aka the Governor. I am also joined today by my co-host of the Console Corner and the First Lady of Xbox, SheWolf. Today on Gamers Knows Best, we will be reviewing and having a great discussion about Among the Sleep. Is this game worth your time and money? Let's get into the video and find out. Real quick, if you're new to the channel, we do gaming videos, reviews, tech unboxings, and the sexiest damn podcast on Tuesday nights called The Console Corner. If those topics interest you, I would definitely consider subscribing. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about the game. Among the Sleep is a first-person horror game from the view of a toddler. The game takes you on a journey of discovery as you try and solve the mysteries of the monster and what has happened to your mother. You are not alone on your journey. You have your trusted Teddy to help you light the way in this twisted and creepy tale. Alright, into our first topic, and that is the eye candy. Graphics are the first thing you see before anything else. It's usually the initial thing that grabs you. So what did we think of the art style and overall look of Among the Sleep? We're going to go ahead and start with SheWolf on this one.
Alright, so when it comes to the graphics of Among the Sleep, I do find they are interesting, and at times they have like real rich color palettes with, dark shadows. The game was very enjoyable to watch and look at, though I do have to say, when at some point in time, I do find some of the scenes and, some of the levels got a little too dark. So I didn't really enjoy that too much, but I do find that everything that needed to be lit up at the times that they did with the plants that they brought in, I thought, brought more and a little bit more variety to each mode and each level that you had to play through. So I thought that was kind of enjoyable. The textures and, even like the water and just the variety of what they brought in the difference of moods and levels, I thought was really great.
Yeah, I think the graphics are, it's 50-50 for me. I think they're okay. I think they fit the game well. The game takes place in a house, and at certain points it transforms into something interesting in creepy places, which is really cool. One of the biggest letdowns in the graphics is the mother to me. I think she's like way too stylized, and some of the camera angles when you're looking from the child, she just looks really bad and awkward. I would have liked to have seen them spend more time on her and bring it up to the level of everything else. At a lot of the points, like when you're just going through the house itself, it's very bland. It's your typical, house in the suburbs type look. I wish they would have done a little bit more. But when the game starts transforming and going into these like dreamlike states, as you're going through these creepy parts, it adds a lot to the game, and it was actually really enjoyable in those parts. Added a creepiness to it.
Well, see, that's kind of where I would have to disagree with you a little bit. When it comes to the house, I think that was the purpose, because it is supposed to be just that standard looking designer house that you would see with any kind of family, but then you have, like you said, you go into these other dimension type worlds and they're just completely different, whether you're in a swamp or whatnot. And I think that was the purpose, or possibly the purpose, of why the graphics were so simple in the house, but then so different and so vibrant when you went to a different world, so you could actually tell the difference between the two.
Well, I mean, I get that point, but I mean, you could definitely tell the difference in this game, like for sure. I don't think there's any, like, without a doubt, like you're in this creepy part or you're in this house part. Like, it's just, for me, you spend half the game in this house and it's just very generic and it's not really appealing to me. But I definitely see your points, and they admit that may have been where they were going for. But one of the best parts I liked in those creepy parts of the levels was when we got to that painting room and you had to go to like the 3 paintings and do all those levels and stuff. I thought it was really cool how you went through the paintings and then it was like that world of that painting. I enjoyed that part a lot.
I agree. That was the forest level, and they had, I really enjoyed the fact that each one wasn't the same. Like, they could have used the same layout for each one, but they didn't. They actually gave, like, either it was a path for one and an open area for a different, or you'd have like 3 paths for that one. And I actually really enjoyed that aspect of it.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic that matters the most in all video games, and that is the gameplay. Without good gameplay, one, it wouldn't be a game, and two, if it sucks, you're just not going to have fun. So how do we like the gameplay of Among the Sleep? I'm going to go ahead and start on this one. I thought the gameplay was okay. There's nothing really special here. This is really just a walking simulator at the end of the day at its core, and with some puzzle solving thrown in. I thought the puzzles and the collectibles were one of the best parts of the game. But when you got to this mission where you had to like pick up some drawings, there was like a whole level like where they wouldn't disappear, and you didn't know if you got them. I know SheWolf had an issue with this as well. Should probably talk about that. And that was kind of concerning, especially if you're trying to get the achievement and stuff. I also thought like going from the walking or crawling to climbing was a bit clunky, and at points I found myself getting really frustrated and just like smashing the button to try and climb, and it felt like you need to be in this particular spot to get on this, you know, shelf or whatever it was, and the shelf is huge, so there really wasn't no point that I had to be in this particular spot. So I don't know, it's kind of frustrating. I think the puzzles and exploration, again, is like the best part in the game, though there are some levels that you definitely could get lost in, and that's another part of the gameplay, that there's no real guide to go through anything or to show you where you need to go, not even like a little lighting hint or anything like that, which could be troublesome for some people to try and find their way through. I don't know, what did you think, SheWolf?
Well, I definitely agree with like getting lost and stuff. Like in the end, you can only really go one way, but it's the little off the course parts that, you know, you can get lost in, which make things difficult. But one of my biggest issues when it comes to the gameplay is this is a walking simulator, and I get that, but you know, you're supposed to be playing as an infant, but it felt more like you were actually just playing as like a tiny person, because you know, you're able to pull chairs, lift boxes without really any too much trouble. And I understand, you know, it is a game, but you don't feel like a toddler. You really don't. And I find when you were grabbing things like chairs and stuff to try to move them, you had an issue. Like you would actually like try to grab something, and you like, I don't know if it was meant to do that or if it was just me personally, but I'd try to grab something and it would like let go, and I'd have to like constantly try like a few times just to even grab onto this thing to move it. And that actually like just that aggravated me a bit. And also when you were climbing on things, when the hands just like went in front of this screen, just seemed very out of place. I don't know, that kind of threw me off, because you know, you'd be trying to climb up on like a drawer or something, and you see these hands just kind of like fling in front of you, and I was like, what is the purpose of that exactly? In all, you know, it's easy. The mechanics of it, you know, you're crawling or you're walking, and you know, you're climbing. So to understand the game is really for like anybody who wants to try to play it, is definitely easy to learn. I do find, you know, the shadow monster, he was pretty cool, how the whole like camera angles and stuff, and the camera would shake when they were near. So, you know, it actually gave that aspect of kind of more of a fearness to it. Mm-hmm. And I did enjoy that part of, you know, the gameplay and the mechanics put into that.
Yeah, I kind of agree that it, like when you were talking about like you're a toddler, like we've had kids, other people have kids too, and when they were that small, they really couldn't move a whole lot of like an actual big chair and box and stuff like that. So yeah, I could definitely see where you're talking about, like it's very out of place and weird, but it is a video game. So let's go ahead and go on to the last topic before we get into our verdict, and that is the story. Now, this is usually what keeps you engaged in the game. There have been some great stories in gaming, but what did we think about the story of Among the Sleep? I'm going to go ahead and start with SheWolf on this one.
Okay, so when it comes to the story, to be honest, I was a little confused at first. Because, you know, you start off where, like, you have this loving mother, and it's, like, the birthday, and then you have this teddy bear who, like, doesn't really seem to have too much of a purpose in the game, but he does. I thought he was kind of awkward. He tells you, you know, you have to go find your mom, and he makes it seem like, you know, you're on this mission to find her, and to, like, I don't know, it just, the whole story of it just kind of confused me. Like, I understand, you know, you need to find this parent, you need to be with this parent, and then you're hiding from technically this parent. Like, I don't know, the story confused me partly.
That's hilarious. Yeah, honestly, I actually had a lot of fun with the story. I like when stories don't really tell you what's going on and they want you to figure it out. I like that. It definitely throws you for a loop through there, because it starts off like, you know, you're at this birthday party, you know, the mom's really nice and sweet, and then there's like a bang on the door, and then there's this argument between the mother and father, and that's when the boy gets his teddy bear. And you're kind of right, the teddy bear really doesn't add to the story at all. There's this moment towards the end where, you know, the teddy bear gets like ripped and stuff like that, but you didn't really care because you didn't really build that relationship over the game with that teddy bear. So I could definitely see where it was kind of weird and stuff like that. I thought that it had good pacing though, and it did keep me engaged. I thought it was interesting to see the world and the story unfold in a toddler's eyes, because I think that's where the world changing came into place, whereas, you know, the kid's imagination and stuff like that, where he thought like, you know, maybe all these things look like this monster and whatnot.
I definitely agree, but you know, the one thing I wish they would have done, instead of doing a toddler, like maybe done like a 5-year-old, you know, a young child, because a toddler would not understand the purpose of what was going on with the mother in the first place.
Yeah, he's
like
not gonna understand any of that.
Like, I enjoyed the story, and you know, even though it was confusing to me at first, I didn't really want to give like spoilers of the end, but you know, by the end, I agree with you. You do get the point of what's going on, but a toddler wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
A toddler would just see it as, oh, mommy's upset, and that's it. Like, they wouldn't understand. But now if it was a 5-year-old or someone just a little bit older, I think they would have grasped what was actually going on a little more, especially when, you know, you go crawling to your dad after, and it's like, well, okay, my teddy bear's ripped. Now can you fix it? It's like,
yeah, I agree. There's some definitely like some weird storytelling elements, and I think it goes back to what you were saying before, is like the toddler kind of, at least in his age that he was, doesn't really fit this story too well and what he's doing and all that kind of stuff. You have this sense that you're like an older child, which isn't really the case. So yeah, they had some weird choices there, but overall I thought the story was pretty good.
I agree.
All right, so let's go ahead and now get into what everyone has came to see, and that is Among the Sleep. Is it a buy, sale, or flush this turd down the toilet? But first, let's get into our pros and cons, starting off with the cons. So I'll go ahead and start on this one. The mother is just bad. Like, she needs a very big update to make her fit in with the rest of the world. I think the gameplay mechanics at times were clunky and frustrating. I think the lack of some basic guides on what to do is kind of frustrating as well, especially for people that aren't used to these type of games where you have to explore, and in some of the levels, as we said before, you can definitely get lost in. So definitely need an update on that. The game is marketed as a horror game, and to be honest, there was none of that in this game. It was very much just like some jump scares and some tense moments, but there was nothing scary or horror about this game at all. So what were your cons?
When it comes to the cons, one is actually personally the teddy bear. You know, they have you start with the tutorial where, you know, you hug him to light him up, but I find throughout the game I didn't need that at all.
Yeah.
He was pretty much just there, but that was it. So I do, you know, my one con is the teddy bear. I wish they would have put a little more into actually creating this teddy bear to be more of a relationship with this child than what he was. I also find, like you said, the child didn't care much for the teddy bear at the end when he got torn apart. I would have liked to have actually felt a little more from that. Also, the child, I wish they would have gave the aspect of it actually being a little bit of an older child than a toddler. But really, while you're playing the game, I guess in the sense you're thinking it's a younger child anyway, so that's not a huge con, but it is a little one for me. Also, the grabbing the items and stuff, I thought it was a little clunky, and I couldn't do that all that great. But again, that could have just been me. Definitely, some of the modes felt broken when you couldn't grab the pictures and they wouldn't disappear, so you didn't even know if you actually got, that collectible. So that was kind of a downfall for me. And
all right, cool. Let's go ahead and get into the pros. The story for me, is great. I actually love the twist and seeing the story unfold through the child's eyes and in the whole situation and what everything was going on. I thought that was really cool. A very different take to what we've seen in games previously. I think the puzzles and the collectibles are great in this game, though at some times with the collectibles, as we stated, is kind of clunky and doesn't work some of the times. So there's that. Also, the art style was really cool, especially in those creepy, dreamlike levels. They added some great variety to what I thought was a very bland house. So what were your pros?
Mine was definitely, the fact of the different layouts for each scene. Because usually, people just use the cookie cutter ones where it's just like the same thing for each one, but just looks a little different. They didn't do that in this. They actually gave you variety with each level, and I like that aspect of it. I also liked when, the monster came into the scene, you actually felt the monster come into the scene with the vibration of the controller and stuff like that. I really like that. I do like the story. I had to, again, I had to think of it like a young child, not a toddler, but then that made it more enjoyable for me personally. I also like the fact of, the puzzles that they had created in it, and, I enjoyed the graphics and the playfulness of it, so.
All right, so is the game Among the Sleep by Killbright Studios a buy, sale, or flush this turd down the toilets? All right, I'm going to go ahead and let SheWolf start on this one.
With the price tag of $14.99, truthfully, I would buy it. It's a fun game. It is enjoyable. There is little tiny perks that, that are clunky and stuff. But in the end, it's an enjoyable game, and you can get some good achievements. They're simple and easy to get, so there's always that. And, just the story is fun, and each level is fun to go through. So truthfully, I think this is a buy for me.
All right, cool. For me, I thought Among the Sleep is an okay game. It does some nice things, but there's nothing new here. The fact that it's marketed as a horror game and doesn't deliver on that is a letdown. The game had some great potential, but missed the mark. If you're into Chivo hunting, definitely pick it up. You can get them all in little over an hour or two. Other than that, I can't go ahead and recommend to buy this. I would definitely rent it or wait for a sale. All right, that's it. This is GKB and
SheWolf.
We hope you enjoyed this review and discussion of Among the Sleep. Make sure you smack the crap out of that like button if you thought this video was awesome. If you'd like to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe, and as always, take care of your fellow gamer.